Thanks, Tom. Morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here today with my lab. Some of the folks are my lab will be here, so I will introduce them during the middle. Today, I'm going to talk about how we can leverage big data and artificial intelligence, which is called AI, to discover new therapeutics. I want to start with one Chinese game called Go, which is a very complicated game, right? You have to think many steps ahead. You have to guess your opponent's next step. There are many decisions you have to make. We always think that the smart people can play. I don't play. I don't watch either. But I watched the game in 2016 because one player is computer game called AlphaGo. Another player is world's best Go player, vivo. Surprisingly, AlphaGo won the game, and later that year, it beat all the world-class Go players. This really gets the whole world excited, including myself, trying to understand, well, what's AlphaGo? AlphaGo simply is computer games. The very beginning, it doesn't know nothing about the games. But every time it plays, it learns a little bit and improves it a little bit. Different from our human being, we have to take a break after each game. But AlphaGo does not need to take any break. So the computer can play with itself. And after numerous times games, it reaches to the level nobody can compete with. Well, AlphaGo is not, of course, it's not simply a computer game to play goals. It really means something. It means the AI start to focus. So what's AI? If you ask a different person, you will get different answers. In my opinion, AI is just a bunch of intelligent computer programs that help us, human beings, to be able to address the challenge we are hard or difficult or not able to address. It includes the conventional machine learning method and also the advanced deep learnings. A deep learning breakthroughs usually drives the AI boom. Deep learning originally from computer vision field. In computer vision, every year they organize the competitions. They invite the world researchers to come and to develop computational programs to recognize image, either as dog, cats, you name it. By 2012, the performance around like 75%. But in 2012, there one knob stand out. It performs much better than others. People start to know, well, it's using one computer program called deep learning. And later that years, every lab started using this method, deep learning, and it performs, up to now, the performance as better as human being in many tasks. So the competition is continuous. There's no reason to have any competition. People start to think about how to use AI to benefit humanity. So deep learning is not new method. It's pretty old computational, one of the computational method developed many years ago. It includes the first layer, like the input layer, so it's car here, and also the output layer, labeled car, truck, bicycles. And the middle layer composed by many neurons, which can try to capture the information, different aspect of your input features. So it tries to mimic how our brain works. When we were as a child, when we learn the world by watching, we look at lots of the image, And it takes many years for us, for the brain to develop, to be able to recognize the object. Of course, the deep learning, the computer also need lots of data to train, and also the computational power to train this model. Of course, we cannot wait for many years to train one models. So because of the computational power now, we can train the model using thousands of CPU that allows us to quickly train the models. So today, the AI it just explode. I will just show you some examples. This is the image, right? Look at the image, it's cats, but they are not the real image. They are not the image of the real cats. Just you input some random number, the computer generates this image based on your random numbers. Computer can also help you paint. You can load this image, and you can convert to the style of different artists, like Manet, Mango, you name it. Computer can help you dance, even you're not a professional dancer. You don't dance ballet, but computer can help you. At least can make a video looks like you can dance. This just show you the core technology behind, but we know the AI, the impact of AI is profound. Take the video as examples. Probably in the future, we will not trust the evidence from video anymore. Indeed, the AI is changing, is reshaping every field, from banking, business, transportation, healthcare. In transportation, because of the advance of computer vision, now we can precisely recognize the person, car, motorcycle, helmet. So this really can help us to drive the car automatically. I hope one day when we drive from Borravis to East Lansing, instead of driving, we can say that myself driving car, have some coffee, read some paper, prepare my presentations. Right? I'm sure that day will come. If that day happens, I would come here every day. Computer also can help the doctor to make a diagnosis. This is a study showing that computer can differentiate non-malignant skin cancer from malignant skin cancers, and it performs as better as dermatologists. Just in the last couple of years, you've seen so many applications using AI to process image, like breast cancer, brain cancer, etc. AI-based products actually already went to the clinic, benefits the patient. To just give the one example, FDA already approved one AI-based product called IDXDR, which is used to detect diabetes retinopathy. It also approved another products which can be used to detect the risk fractures. Just last couple of years, there's so many startup funding to use the big data and AI to address the challenge in the biomedical field. Now, we're interested to use AI and big data to identify new therapeutics, especially in cancers. In the last few decades, we've seen tremendous progress in cancer drug discovery, but still, lots of cancer we still don't have any treatment at all. And the difficult to discover new drug really cause the increase of the cancer treatment. Today, every feminist have to pay about 10,000 for the cancer treatment. 10,000. Can you imagine how many families can earn such amount of money every month? So we are thinking about whether we can use big data to help, whether we can use big data to reuse existing drug to fight the deadly cancer, reuse the existing drug to fight deadly cancers. So how big big actually is, and big data in the biomedical domain. I just give you quick examples. In 2014, European Bioinformatics Institute hosted 25 pairs data and quickly increased to 60 pairs data in 2015. So what does a 60 pairs data mean? Well, everyone has a laptop. That's about 2 terabyte storage. 60 terabytes is equal to the sum of the storage of over 30,000 laptops. 30,000 laptops. So you can imagine how much information can be stored in this laptop. Indeed, European Bioinformatics Institute hosts 120,000 data set. 120,000 data set. This just shows you the complexity and the growth of big data in one single institute. So what's the big data look like in for the drug discovery? To give you one example in Ginebra cancers, we have the image data, pathological image, MRI. We have the clinical data, the electronic medical records, lab test result, treatment, medication, outcome, etc. We also have the molecular data from the patient, mutation data, carbon number variation, gene expression, methylation, microRNA, etc. We even have the emergent data set like single cell or microbiomes. Among all this data, my lab is especially interested in one type of data called mRNA. From based on the central diagonal, from DNA to mRNA to proteins. Compared to DNA, we see the mRNA has much more information. It's more functional related. Compared to protein, mRNA is more stable. And the technology is matured to be able to generate large amount of data with mRNAs. Give you one example in one database called GEO, which is the public repository for gene expression profiles. Now it already have 2.6 million samples across the world. And most of them are group tissues. But if you look at a single cell, you can quickly suppress 500,000 cells. In 2014, you can publish a paper in Science using 400 single cells. But today, if you want to publish paper in Science, you need 100,000 single cells. So what information is single cell? Let's say we have close to 500,000 single cell. Each cell we have 20,000 features. So in total, that's about 10 billion data points. 10 billion data points. You know how many cells in our bodies? That's trillions of single cells. So what we can use? How we can use this single cell for the medical research? This just tissue samples. We use RNA sequencing. This is just a list of the letters. But from these letters, we can tell whether the patient got affected or not, whether it's got affected by virus or bacteria, or whether the patient will benefit from any given drugs, or the patient will respond to the immunotherapy or not. But this is not in science fiction. It's already used in the clinic. I was fortunate to be involved in one clinical trial called I-SPY, which is a national clinical trial for breast cancers. So before the surgery, we want to treat the patient. And we can have, here, we have the endpoint called complete pathological complete response, which can predict whether the patient will do well or not after the surgery. So our goal is really want every patient to be able to reach to the pathological complete response. The very beginning, we take the tumor samples from the patient, profiles, based on their molecular mark, profiles we can prescribe for this patient. Either it's ER positive, HER2 positive, or triple negative. during the middle. If the patient does not respond, we can again take out their tumor samples, profiles, and try to predict another set of drug for this patient. So my lab, we are trying to help them to be able to find the best drug for those patients who don't respond to current standard of care agent. How are we going to do that? Well, we think every patient, if every disease is a molecular disease, there is a molecular signature for that disease. Here we can use gene expression to represent their molecular signatures. The idea is very simple. First, we just compare the gene expression profiles of the disease samples and the control samples, from which we know which genes are abnormally upregulated or which genes are abnormally downregulated. We can also treat the cancer cell with the drug and without the drug to get the drug signatures. Because we are using cancer cell lines, we can get a signature of all the FDA-approved drug or drug in the clinical trials. Then we can match the disease signature and the drug signature, so whether the drug can reverse the disease signatures. Biologically, it also makes sense, right? If the drug is able to suppress the disease genes which is upregulated in a disease sample, then we think the drug may have some therapeutic effect. If the drug is able to increase the expression of the disease genes which is downregulated in the disease samples, we think the drug has some therapeutic effect. But instead of looking at individual genes, we think how the drug affects a list of the disease genes. I gave you one example in cellular carcinoma study. This is the HCC, which is very common liver cancer in Asia. First, we just take out the tissue samples and adjust the normal tissue samples. We compare the profiles about 200 tumor samples and about 50 adjusted normal tissue samples, and create a disease signatures consist of 274 disease genes. And some of them, are abnormally upregulated, some genes are abnormally downregulated. Then we use the disease signature query our drug library, which includes pretty much all the FDA-approved drug and the drug in the clinical trials. Here, the hidden map. The first column shows the disease signature, HCC signatures. The red shows upregulated genes, green shows downregulated genes. Remaining column are the drug signatures. If we want the drug to reverse disease signatures, we really want the green color goes down, red color goes up. And you can see majority of the compounds can reverse disease signature, except the last one, which is the random drug we add on purpose. Among all this drug, the top candidate is niclosamide. Niclosamide, is a drug to treat the parasite. It's drug to kill the worms in our body. But we think, well, it may be able to treat the cancers. Then we test the compounds in different models. This is the patient-derived mouse model. Here, this is the control, and this is the our drugs. We're using the salt of this drug to increase the solubilities.
So can I ask you a question about this? So we know that tumors are extremely heterogeneous. So how many samples do you have to take from a particular tumor? Do you try to develop a composite signature? You can get very, very different signatures depending on which area you biopsy.
Yeah, that's a good point. First of all, of course, the tumor heterogeneity is very important, but we know liver cancer, there's no treatment at all. So at the very beginning, we think probably we should treat them as a whole. We use about 200 samples to create 8 of the signatures. And we also using about 1,000 patient sample as independent cohorts to validate that signature. So we're trying to see whether the signature can separate the tumors from the non-tumor samples. We also trying to stratify these samples based on their risk factors. We know the HCC can be induced by HPV, HCV, or alcohol use. So we stratify the patient, create a signature, and see whether our drug can reverse each individual signatures. And we found that. And today I just ignore this part. Yeah, so we also found this compound can significantly inhibit tumor growth in primary mass model, which induced by the oncogene Wind ROS pathways.
Good question. If you don't mind, I may have missed it. So how do you define the baseline of what's normal?
So we have two approaches. One is just look at the adjacent normal tissue samples from the same patient.
From how many?
For about 50, yeah, adjacent normal tissue samples. Later on, I will talk about the deep learning approach we are going to use to identify the normal samples from healthy individuals.
So among that 50, is there significant diversity? What I mean is, do you see varying levels of different signals? I'll call it that.
Yeah.
How diverse is that?
In Ginebra Cancer is okay, but we saw that huge heterogeneity in other cancer, like breast cancer, like breast normal tissue sample. You will see their normal are very different as well. I will show that later on.
Okay.
That's a good point.
So in tumors, unlike normals, you will have quite a bit of infiltration of other cell types.
Yes.
So how can you, using artificial intelligence, or training mechanisms, how actually you separate those from the signatures that are from the cancer cells, and how much can you really separate with your tools that type of signals? Because those are also signatures for cancer.
That's absolutely right.
But the timing there, I think it's quite important.
Yes. So the liver cancer, we first actually look at the tumor samples. We look at the purity of the tumors. We know many of the tumors mixed with different cell types, stromal cell, immune cell. So in our work, we just simply ignore the impure samples. For the adjacent normal tissue samples, that's a very good question. We know there are some cancer cell also infiltrate into the normals. So in this case, we also using the samples from healthy individuals, so without any cancer. So this patient are healthy individuals. I also use them as a control to create the signatures.
Yeah, but they will not have immunocells, for example, in the liver.
Healthy individuals.
I guess in a normal, in whatever is called control, right? And this is the question in every system. It's a hard one because you don't have that type of population. So I guess what I'm interested in, because I think it's interesting to know for us, is there any threshold? Is there a point in which you can say, okay, this is a time in which the inflammatory response starts, but this is the time perhaps, so the number of genes that can uncouple the contribution from the tumor microenvironment and from the contribution from the tumor per se.
Yeah, that's a good point. We unfortunately don't have the longitudinal data, but that's definitely a good point. Now we start using single cell data, hopefully to understand the dynamic of this disease development. I will touch that a little bit later on during the talk. But all of them are very good questions. All right, so we also compare our compounds with the standard of care, sorafenib. This is the control, which the myasthenic disorders. The second row shows our drug. The third is sorafenib. And you can see our compound as effective as the standard of care, sorafenib. And the combination has a much more profound effect. You barely see the tumors from these two mice. And to simply show you, but we can use open data to be able to find therapeutic candidates. I ignored many, many slides. We also did the toxic study, PK/PD studies. If you guys interested, please feel free to read our papers. But furthermore, we also took out the tumors after a few weeks treatment, improved on them, and we found the disease genes was reversed, their expression was reversed. And this shows that the feasibility of this approach, we can use this approach to drug discovery. Once we know the drug is positive, it's always positive. So we have lots of fun trying to understand the biology, trying to make a story how this drug works. Here we know this compound is pretty dirty drug, have multiple targets, and specifically this drug binds to CDC37 and disrupt the heat shock protein 90 and CDC37 interactions. Now we also use a similar method, identify a few other candidates. And we are actively validating them in the different models. Especially one, we try to get a license from the companies. I just block it for the confidential reasons.
Another quick question, if you don't mind. You said, for example, niclosamide analogs. How do you do this? I mean, you could do sort of phenotypic screening, I guess, but ideally you want the target.
Yeah.
So what's your strategy here?
That's why I hired my postdoc, Dr. Chen. We'll start officially next week in Pharmacology, work on this this drug. Yeah, we have some plan. We want to work with like nano-strain, trying to profile these compounds, get their gene expression signature, from which we can devise some optimization strategy. Well, I'm happy.
So it's about an optimization. I mean, you can also use an analog strategy to help you define target too.
Yes.
So which do you value the most at this time?
Well, frankly, we're not super interested to know the targets. We just want to find the best drug because the heterogeneity of the cancers. In neural cancer, there are lots of the targets we have to like modulate if you wanna find the best treatment. But currently, all of our kind of optimization based on single targets. Frankly, I think that's not working in neural cancers. So we decided to just optimize these compounds, which are able to reverse the disease signature. And we test this in different models. If it works, we're trying to move forward. Well, in addition to neural cancer, we also get some success in other cancers. Like in sarcomas, we create a signature of 174 genes by comparing the tumors and the normal tissue samples, found a drug to reverse the disease signatures. In sarcoma, we know the UN gene is the driver of this disease. If you lock down UN genes, can reverse the disease phenotype. So we try to find a drug to mimic the lockdown of SR and of UN. We also try to find a drug to overcome resistant UN sarcoma. We create the signatures by comparing the disease profile of the patient who respond to the chemotherapy and who don't respond to chemotherapy, and try to find a drug to sensitize the drug resistance. We took the drugs from the different models and identified 28 compounds. I was sent to our collaborators. It turned out 17 of them are positive. So if you look at the success rate, that's already over 50%. But I know many of you are doing high-throughput drug screening. The success rate probably is around 5 or 10%. So in terms of success rate, our approach has unique advantage. Of course, we are using big data, it's much faster and pretty cheap. In basal cell carcinoma, we also first to create a signature for advanced basal cell carcinoma, and also create a signature for early stage of basal cell carcinoma, and trying to find a drug to reverse both signatures. And we found one compound called varmestat, which is HDAC inhibitors. We found that HDAC inhibition can suppress basal cell carcinoma growth in vitro and in vivo, and also can reverse the basal cell signatures. In our recent study in Alzheimer's disease, we try to find a drug to reverse Alzheimer's disease with ApoE4 genotype. So we create a signature for as ApoE4 related Alzheimer's disease patient, and find a drug to reverse. And just to show you, we got some positive result in the vivo, in animal models, and we saw that the disease signatures were reversed in the animal models. And this work still on, the paper is under review. That just simply suggests that this approach can be applied to discover drug for other non-oncology disease. So we can also success in different disease. This really motivates us to think of why this approach works again and again. Then we decided to do large scale analysis. We know many of you have done many experiments. You have your favorite drug, you test the efficacy, and you release the drugs. So we put all of the drugs and then compute the reversal correlation with the disease signature. We quantify this as potency to reverse disease gene expression. And we found that the potency to reverse disease gene expression significantly correlated to the drug efficacy. So here X shows the potency to reverse disease gene expression, Y shows the efficacy. And basically, this means that if the compound show high potency to reverse disease gene expression, we don't have to run experiment. Most of the likely, this compound will be effective. We saw this pattern in liver cancer, also in breast cancer, colon cancer. Well, you probably say this is not perfect correlation. That's fine. We don't care whether the correlation is 0.7 or 0.5. At my lab, we are more interested in how we're going to use this discovery to identify new therapeutics. The best way is go to the lab and test some compounds. So in liver cancer, we use our approach to score about 12,000 compounds. And we ask our collaborators to select 4 compounds which show high potency to reverse liver cancer gene expression and also represent different mechanisms of actions. This choose 4 compounds. Here, just the 4 compounds, you can see their structure are quite different. The test is compound in 5 liver cancer cell lines, and right shows the median IC50 value. And you know the IC50 value around 1 is pretty good. Right? So our compounds, most of them are effective. Almost all of them are effective, especially the last one, proteome. The IC50 value is around 17 nanomolar, which is amazing. And we saw this compound can significantly inhibit the tumor growth in xenografts. And this shows that the potency to reverse gene expression can predict the drug efficacy in vitro and in vivo. So now we are actively improving and implement this approach in different projects. We can look at primary cancers. We can also look at resistant or metastatic cancers, or even single cell. We can identify a small molecule to regulate single cell activities. In addition to gene expression, we can also add protein expression, metabolites. Well, in terms of the drug signatures, we are now getting the drug signature from cancer cells, but now people start using organoid or all advanced animal models. We can all include this data into our pipelines. I'm going to show you some of the examples. So last year, we had a crazy idea. We think whether we can predict drug for all the cancer, literally every cancer. Then we decided to integrate, annotate all of the cancer samples publicly available. And we use the same pipeline to process the samples and put them into the single matrix. Here is choosing the cancer map we put. Each dot is one patient. The island indicates their subtype, the cancers. So literally, we have now over 20,000 samples covering 40 cancer types. But we have two problems. One problem is the control, which we discussed earlier. So usually we will create the disease signatures, we take out the tumor samples and adjust normal tissue samples to create the disease signatures. But when we look at the samples in TCGA, which is a very common cancer genomic database, and we found that half of the cancers, we don't have enough normal samples, just normal tissue samples as controls. Why? Well, for example, brain cancer, the patient will not want to donate their normal brain for the research. But the good news is that there is one database called Ginebra, which provides the profiles of thousands of the health individuals. Most of them are deceased. And this really provides an opportunity to use these samples as a control. But now the problem is how to find the normal tissue samples for the given tumors, which we just discussed. But we think this is a big data problem because we consider each samples as can be represented as thousands of features. How can we use this to compute, find the normals which are mostly correlated to tumors? You can use like PCA, but it does not capture the nonlinear relationship between the genes. So we decide to use deep learning autoencoders. This is the architecture of the deep learning models. Well, instead of input image, we input their genomic features. We have 60,000 gene expression data, and we ask the deep learning autoencoders model to tell us which representation was the best to represent the samples. This model we encode into 64 features, and use this feature, we can compute the correlation between the tumors and the normal tissue samples from healthy individuals. And we find that it performs better than other methods. Here just show you example in breast cancer Lumina A studies. So we compare the breast cancer Lumina A cancer samples and all the normal samples from GTAC. And you can see the samples from breast, the normal sample breast, mostly correlated to the breast cancer Lumina A. But surprisingly, half of them are not correlated to the breast cancer Lumina A, which means the normal are different. The normal sample are different. We have to precisely stratify the normal samples in our research. Of course, our deep learning method can help. There are another problem as the cell lines. I know many of you work on the cell lines every day. We know the cell line is different from the real patient. And in cancer, there are lots of cell lines available. But which cell line should we choose to validate my hypothesis? We think the big data can help. We can use the mutation data, carbon number variation, mRNA, to quantify their difference, from which can tell us which one is suitable for your research. Here's one example, the metastatic breast cancer research. We compare all of the breast cancer cell lines with the real metastatic breast cancer tissue samples. If you are working on breast cancer, you may know this cell line, MDAMB231, which is commonly used for metastatic breast cancer research. If you look at the literatures, pretty much all the literatures studying metastatic breast cancer will be using MDAMB231. But if you look at their gene expression profiles with the real patient samples, their correlation is not significant at all. It's just random correlation. We just popular papers. My postdoc is leading this effort, and he will talk about his research in today's cancer biology seminars. If you are interested, please feel free to join his seminars. Again, we also look at their mutation status, and we found that the 231 does not harbor the mutations, which are frequently observed in a real patient samples. So this is a big problem, right? Which means if the compound you're working on is working very well in 231, probably it will not work in a patient. So we have to be very careful when we are selecting the cancer cell line in our research. This example in Ginebra Cancer research, among the 20,000 or 220 Ginebra cancer cell lines, we found half of the Ginebra cancer cell lines are not correlated to the liver cancer tumor samples. So this really is a concern. We have to be very careful to select the cancer cell line in our research. With that, yeah.
So this kind of gets to what Andrea was talking about, and that is, are you comparing a single cell in a tissue culture dish with your tumor cell to a cell mixture that's coming from the tumor? So, I mean, the gene expression signatures are not going to be different because there's stromal cells, immune cells. So unless those are removed, I guess it's not surprising that they don't correlate well.
Yes, that's a very good point. But like this cancer, liver cancer, even we have compared the same set of the tumor samples, but you see the variation in hepatitis 2, 57, and most commonly used cell line, they are correlated quite well. But other cell line, you probably didn't know this before. I don't know whether there are many reasons accounting for the inconsistent. Microenvironment is one factors, but also the culture and maybe contamination, many other factors contribute to the difference. So with this in mind, our lab, we try to identify therapeutics for several other diseases. We work on DIPG. DIPG is one rare pediatric cancer. We had the same issue as I mentioned earlier. We don't have any adjusted normal tissue samples. In our country, we spent 1 year get permission to get access to this raw data of these samples. But then we figure out we don't have the adjusted normal tissue samples. Then we spend another year developing deep learning model to be able to help us to select the right reference tissue sample from GTAC. Now we're using the same pipeline process them and create a signature, and you can use our drug repurposing pipeline to be able to predict the drug for this DIPG. This show you some preliminary data. Now we got the drug are being tested in our collaborators lab in European University. And my postdoc, Dr. Patrick Newberry, is leading this effort. Of course, we can apply this approach for any other disease. If you have, or you have good models, we can give a try. We know there are lots of interest to use this pipeline, and we understand many individual labs don't have the capacity to manage such amount of data. So we decided to build this pipeline, this workflow with the architect, open therapeutic discovery portals. We are using same pipeline, process all the RNA samples, publicly available, and put them into single matrix. And our after the core functions, which provide the basic bioinformatics analysis, like how to take care of the quality of your tissue samples, how to compute differentiated express gene between the case and the control, how to run pathway enrichment analysis. We provide all the core functions in these modules. We also have the desktop version, which allows the computational biologist who can modify the code to perform more advanced analysis. You can change the code, improve this a little bit. We put them in GitHub. You're welcome to contribute if you are interested. We also developed the web portal based on Python and HTML5. We try to make it as easy as possible, so we devised the simple 4-step strategy. First, you just simply select the case samples based on the molecular or clinical features. For example, I want to look at IDH1 low-grade gliomas. So we can help you to select that subset of patient samples. And our deep learning modules can help to select appropriate set of control samples. Then we can create a signature for that subset of patient, and we can produce drugs. So the portal now is live, but we are still actively improving it. If you are interested, please give a shot, and also feel free to contact me if you wanna contribute. Beyond the disease predictions, we can also use the system approach in many other fields. For example, we can identify oncogene inhibitors using the system approach. The idea is very simple. We can create the oncogene-specific signatures from different models, right? You can activate one oncogene, make it, the non-malignant cell become malignant. You can also activate the oncogene in mice. And from the models, we are able to get the disease signatures. And we can find the compound to reverse that signatures. This is one example in MIC. This is collaborative work with Dr. Andrew Luga's lab. So we create a signature using different models from his lab, and similarly, Chen found a drug to reverse the same signatures. We found one, interestingly, and we spent a while synthesizing these compounds. Now we have some data, but it's still ongoing. It just shows that it's feasible to be able to use this system approach to identify inhibitors. If you have any target in mind, let me know.
Can I ask a question about the MIC? So when you look at these signatures, do you see a big change between solid tumors? We're talking about MIC identifiers. And if you compare lymphomas or basically blood, circulating
Yeah.
blood cancer or solid tumors?
Yeah.
Are they a specific subset of signatures?
Yes, and if you look at the Venn diagram, you will see the difference. They actually strikingly different, but still you can see some common signatures. So we're just trying to find whether there are some universal signature for MYC.
So when we're talking about striking, how many? Can you give us an idea? Since many of us work on MYC-related cancers, are we talking about 20, hundreds? What are we talking about here?
Well, if you look at this Venn graph, I would say 1/3 of the, 2/3 of them are different.
Two-thirds.
Yeah. But of course, if you want to ask the specific questions, I can ask my postdoc to run additional analysis and give you more accurate numbers.
We will get to you. Sure. Thanks.
So I know many of you work on the toxicology, and we also can think about using this approach to identify potential carcinogens. Instead of trying to find a drug to reverse systems from tumor to normal state, we can also find a small molecule to reverse the system from normal to tumors, right? And we are looking at natural products. I know many of natural products maybe can induce cancers. And we are also actively looking for preclinical model to validate our hypothesis. If you have something interest, let me know. Well, single cell, of course, we know there are tons of single cell available that allows us to create a signature for each cell type. There's tumor cell, T cell, Treg, etc. Now it's possible to be able to create any signatures. We can also use a single cell to model the cell lineage development. From stem cell to different cell types, we can create signatures using the single cell data. Of course, we can mine up very interesting how we are able to use small molecule to control cell lineage development. Or we can even apply this approach to individualize cancer therapy. This is a melanoma patient. We have lots of the melanoma patient single cell. And we can create a signature for this patient by comparing his malignant cancer cell, like malignant cell versus non-malignant cells. And find a drug whether it can reverse this disease signature or can find a combination to reverse the signature of this single patient. Well, we're not only interested to find a drug and reuse existing drug. We're also interested to find better drugs. Right? So we want to find a drug to be able to best reverse the disease signature. Right? To be able to do this, we need the drug signature of this compound. But you know, it's impossible to get the signature of millions of the compound. Right? It's just impossible. So we need a model. We need a computational model to be able to infer the profiles of these compounds. But we know the profiles depends on the chemical structure, depends on the cellular context, depends on the biological relation, biological conditions. They are not simply linear relations. It's much more complicated. So that's why we think AI really will be helpful. I hope my postdoc organization here in this building to be able to help us to find the next generation of the anti-cancer drug using this AI approach. And just to show you some cool pictures, we're using this computer to synthesize the chemical structures. Here on the right, the very beginning, you barely see this, right? It's just blurred. But then, well, a few steps training, it looks like the image looks like chemical structure, but not sure as good as the one on the right. Just shows you we are still ongoing project, but hopefully we are able to find something cool. Well, we also trying to use
Just
this
a quick question along those
Yeah.
lines. Have you gone back and
this one.
used, no, not this, the next slide, which shows all the movement of structures. Have you gone back and looked at some case studies to see how good this approach would be in actually predicting the outcome?
Yes, we are working on this. This is very early stage.
Okay.
And we're also using the deep lens as an intelligent camera. You can deploy AI into this camera. That allows us to do like object detection. I just use a demo from my lab, and you can see it's working. So this is a real camera, which can detect whether it's monitor, it's dog, what's the probability could be a dog. Of course, we're not interested in dog. We are more interested in patient or as a mice. You are in your laboratory and see how this their behaviors. We're so excited to have great teams with the same passion and interest. We have all the posts here. We also have lots of collaborators, like this work, Ginebra Cancer works. We are working with the investigators from Stanford to help us to evaluate these cancer drugs. We're also working with Professor Haiyan Huang's lab to develop statistical models. We also work on investigators from New York to help us to evaluate the DNPG compounds. We got lots of support from my former colleague at UCSF, especially my postdoc mentor, Arthur Build. Of course, I really appreciate the people here who help us to settle down, especially with the support, without the support from Dr. English, Ubik, Asma, I was not able to sit here today. Thanks for your attention.
Any further questions?
Sure, I have a quick question. Have you ever thought about using this technology, or what you spent the most time talking about anyway, for prediction of safety?
It's possible, yes. We can, we actually, well, one of the projects to identify the carcinogen, which is kind of basically similar idea. You want to see whether this compound can push the systems from the disease state to the normal state, or from normal to the disease state, or like to the tumor. Yeah. So theoretically we can. Like if you have interesting idea, we can.
Thank you.
More on this.
All right. Thank you, Ben, again.